I have a good life abroad, so why am I unhappy? This is a question that many expats and internationals ask themselves at some point in their life abroad, and maybe you have too. My name is Amanda, and I'm a life coach for expats, and I see this all the time. And in fact, with nearly a decade abroad, I've asked myself the same question a couple of times as well. And this is usually also the point where expats hire me. And in today's video, I want to dive a little bit deeper into this question of, okay, I have this amazing life, why do I feel this way? And give you a few tips along the way. So maybe you recognize this. You have that good, solid life on paper. You have the expat success story that you've always wanted or wanted at some point. You probably have a good job. It may not be the most inspiring and fulfilling one, but it's good and you're pretty high up the ladder. You have the passport stamps, there is exciting travel in your life, you have a nice apartment, you probably have a solid social circle, although if you've been somewhere for longer, people come and go, so that might change again. You have your routines, you know your way around, you really have a good life on paper. But here's the gap. Your life looks full, it feels managed, it looks good on the outside. But then on the inside, it is this quiet feeling like something is off. You aren't feeling fully like yourself, you aren't fully happy, and you can't understand why exactly, because you live such an amazing life and you're genuinely grateful. But there is something off and you can't really pinpoint what it is. Maybe what you've already realized or what you're thinking is you're wondering if this is the right place for you to stay in the long term. Maybe you lost your sense of identity after the move or since the move. Maybe you feel lonely despite a full calendar, or you're watching your life back home continue without you. There might be some fear underneath it too, like afraid of losing what you've built, or afraid of missing out, or what people will say. But there is this general feeling of like, I am just not fully happy. Yes, I have this beautiful, beautiful life and I'm so privileged and I work so hard to get here. Why am I not fully enjoying it? Why do I feel like I'm just going through the motion? Now, I have recognized 3 points where this feeling might come up in a life abroad, which I will share in a moment. But what I first want to say is, if you don't fix this feeling, although I don't like the term of like fixing feelings, because feelings just want to be felt. But if you don't fix this general trend in your life that you find yourself in, it's going to compound over time. And this can really influence how you feel in your daily life, how you feel about the host country, because that might turn into the scapegoat for your feelings. But it can also really influence yourself, because it could start to erode your self-trust or your confidence or other things that you have been proudly carrying with you. And so it might feel like this innocent question, I have a wonderful life, why don't I feel the same way on the inside? But if you don't really look at that thoroughly, it might compound over time and influence you big time. And this is not what you want. This actually happened to one of my clients. She moved from another continent to the UK to be with her husband. Her husband had been with her in her own country, and now it was time to settle in his country. She kept her job, she did it remotely. She could really tap into the social network of her husband because he still had a lot of friends and family there. So she had like important things, important pillars of a life. She had that already, that structure, the job, the social circle. She spoke the same language. So that was all there. Yet she was also feeling increasingly insecure and questioning everything, up to the point that she was even wondering who she now was in this new country. She lost her sense of herself in a way. She didn't recognize herself this way either. And she was very grateful. So she had all these feelings of, I don't know what's going on, I'm just not happy, I don't know who I am anymore. But I'm grateful for everything, all the opportunities that I've been given, all the things that I built for myself. Also grateful for my husband's effort, because I know the effort that he put into being in my country, and now he's making a huge effort for me to make me feel at home. She felt all of that. So there was like this gap and this dichotomy in a way, where she was having a lot of success on paper, not feeling like that on the inside. But then she also started to feel bad about herself for even feeling that way, because she told herself, I need to be grateful. I need to be happy. And if I'm not feeling grateful about it, I'm a bad person. If you recognize anything of what I've been sharing so far, either the gap between the outside and the inside, or telling yourself you need to be grateful, or feeling bad about not feeling grateful, you are not alone. This is so common. I've seen it all the time. And like I said, I've been in it myself too. And what I've been seeing in my work after coaching over 250 expats is that there are usually 3 points of where this can show up. This feeling of, it's working, but I'm unhappy. The first one is not too long after the move. And this is when the honeymoon fades away. So you moved abroad, the first couple of weeks, months, half a year perhaps, are this honeymoon where you're like, this is amazing. It's like meeting a new partner and you love everything about them. After that honeymoon period, this is when you come down with both feet on the ground and you start to be a bit more realistic. And so this is when this experience can come up of like, I'm just not really happy here, but why? Like, it's supposed to be fun. That's the first point. It can also happen when you've outgrown elements of your life. And it's actually not so much about expat life or the country that you're living in, although you might think it's that way, but it's really about you've outgrown your job, you've outgrown your relationship, you've outgrown your friendships, you've outgrown your own identity. Maybe you're ready for a next level version of yourself. You've outgrown elements of the life that you've created, the life that you wanted, that you worked so hard for. And it's this weird sensation that you're like, okay, it took me so long to build everything and I put so much effort in, but now it's not really making me happy anymore. And the third point is where something big or something impactful happens. And it's almost like this, it knocks you out of the wood, instead of saying, but it just knocks you out. And then you have a paradigm shift, like something on the inside really fundamentally changes. And the result could be that because you've had this shift on the inside, it doesn't really match fully anymore with what you have on the outside. I definitely experienced this when one of my friends died very unexpectedly due to a very sudden illness in just a couple of days when I was living in Brazil. And this really impacted me. And the months that followed, I just wasn't feeling happy, even though I had this amazing life on the outside. But not only was I grieving, something also changed within me. And it just shifted me in how I was experiencing this. So these are the 3 points that I have seen as a coach where this feeling of it's amazing, but I'm unhappy shows up. And it's interesting that I usually see people only in the last 2 points because I coach really self-reliant expats. So the honeymoon point where this could happen is something that they figure out on their own. They just, make some changes. They tell themselves it's normal or that they, shouldn't complain about it and they move on. Where I coach them, these kind of expats, the really self-reliant ones, is the point where they get stuck, but they're so good at keeping themselves going even while they're stuck that things have to feel pretty bad or go on for a long enough time that they finally reach out for support. And this is usually point 2 or 3, where they've outgrown elements of their life or their entire life abroad, or something big and impactful happens and it just shifts everything for them and they need outside support because it's the one thing that they cannot do on their own anymore. And maybe you think, okay, Amanda, yes, I recognize this unhappy but grateful feeling and I'm feeling guilty about feeling ungrateful, but I just need to make a bigger effort. Maybe that's what you're telling yourself. I just need to put in more energy. I just need to change my attitude. I just need to make it work. But that is precisely the keeping yourself going while you're feeling stuck part that I meant. Because you're slowly getting stuck, you're turning your wheels, but you've kind of qualities inside of you that you know how to just keep yourself going. Just put in more effort, just put in the work. And this is actually something that I also see very often with my clients. They have traits that really build their success abroad, and maybe you recognize them too. You're a pretty logical person, you're focused on performance, you like to have control, you're a hard worker, you're self-reliant, you know how to get things done, you are pretty much a go-getter. And those traits have got you very far. It built you the life that you have, but they stop working for this question. Because you feeling unhappy about your life or a part of your life is about emotions. And it's not about rational thinking or about doing or using your skills. And so these traits that have got you very far, they stop working for this question. And this is usually the case when expats hire me, like I said. This is also why the usual fixes don't work. Maybe you're someone who listens to all the podcasts, you've read the books, maybe you changed your job, maybe you decided to move again because this country wasn't it, and then 2 years later you're again feeling the same way. Guilty, I've been there. These are all external answers to an internal question. You're trying to fix it on the outside where really what you should be doing is going inside. And I want to share 3 very quick steps with you about what you can do instead if you feel this way. Number 1 is that I want you to first fully, truly accept what you're feeling. Not fight it, not deny it because you're like, well, I feel this way, but I don't want to be ungrateful, or I have nothing to complain about, or I should just toughen up. That's all pushing that feeling away. And the first step is really to accept, okay, I have a good life on paper, and I am genuinely grateful for that. But I don't feel happy on the inside. What it looks on the outside is not how I'm experiencing it on the inside. And I'm going to fully accept that. So every time that you catch yourself thinking, I'm not fully happy here, instead of pushing it away or telling yourself you've got nothing to complain about, tell yourself, hey, I'm feeling this way and it is okay. I am accepting this feeling. This is really where it all starts. That's step number 1. Accept it. Step number 2, I want you to explore this feeling with curious eyes. So if you're really asking yourself, like have a clear mind when you ask yourself this, what has been creating this feeling? Maybe you realize that it's actually really just about your job because it's very unfulfilling and it's draining all your energy. And so when you come back home from work, you have no energy left to be social. And in the weekends, you need the free time to recharge. And so you're doing fewer social things, you're exercising perhaps a little bit less, or you bring, mental load from work back home. And this all has a ripple effect. So maybe you see, okay, the source is actually really my job, but it's been rippling into other areas of my life. And that's why I have this general unhappy feeling. I have definitely been in that myself twice, in London and in Brazil as a diplomat as well, where I felt that way. But I also want you to go a level deeper, because maybe you are experiencing a frustration with the culture that you're living in. And it could be that it's triggering a deeper emotion of, let's say, not feeling accepted or feeling like the outsider because you always stand out. And is that perhaps something that you've been carrying on the inside for much longer? Is it maybe something that actually, when you're honest, you have had similar feelings and thoughts back home? Maybe when you were growing up or at university or in your first job, that you often felt like the outsider, or that you weren't fully accepted by those people around you and that they were just criticizing you all the time in your experience of it. So maybe it's actually something deeper that you've been carrying with yourself, but is now being expressed through this cultural difference. I want you to do some proper digging here, because yes, sometimes it is about your job and sometimes it is about this deeper feeling. And if you don't tackle that pattern or that wound that is inside, it's gonna show up again and again, no matter what you change, no matter where you move to, because you'll bring yourself wherever you go. So that's step number 2. Look at it with curious eyes and see what has been creating this feeling. Step number 3, I want you to take some steps to change it. If you realize it's your job, research new opportunities. If you realize it's really about the culture and you just have a growing frustration because, I don't know, you just were, you had like a winter kind of depression and you put it all on the culture and now you can't unsee the culture through that filter anymore, then change your attitude. Really put in some effort to change the attitude. If you recognize that, it's because I lack a nice social circle that I really feel at home in, that doesn't cost me energy with the activities that we do, find yourself another one. Maybe when you realize it's something deeper that you've been carrying with yourself for longer, or you lost sense of who you are, or you don't like who you've become in this chapter of your life, hire a coach or a therapist to make really profound changes. So step number 3 is really like, okay, I'm accepting the feeling, I know where it's coming from, and I'm going to take a few steps to change it. Not being attached to the outcome, because maybe it doesn't change anything, but at least you're telling yourself, I am actively changing it. This is really important. But I think the main point of this video is really that I want you to start taking it seriously. This feeling of, yes, I have this amazing life, but I feel unhappy. Don't push it away. Don't tell yourself, I just need to be grateful. I have no reason to complain. Because if you do that, you are basically rejecting a part of yourself. You are rejecting what you're actually experiencing, and you're telling yourself you're not allowed to experience that. And that's not being fully authentic in your life. That's not really being yourself. And as I said, over time, that can erode your self-trust or other things. So really, if you catch yourself thinking that this feeling, this gap, start taking it seriously and start taking steps to see if you can change that. All right, if you want to hear more of these tips on expat life beyond the logistical and practical issues, make sure to subscribe on my channel, because this is where I really talk about the deeper elements of expat life and when it's really about your personal growth. Looking forward to seeing you again.